More than a decade after Andrea's alleged abuser walked away, this brave young woman reveals her shocking truth to detectives. We want to warn you, her story is graphic.
You said he had touched you with his hands over your clothes. Was that on top of your pajamas and your panties, or just on top of your panties or underwear, whichever?
Yeah, no, over both.
Okay. And then he removed your underwear?
Over both.
She was only 6 years old. Now cops want to talk to the man she claims violated her innocence, her uncle Tim Durbin.
So the reason you're here today is because there has been an allegation that there was some inappropriateness between you and a child. Do you want to tell me about that?
I don't have the slightest clue.
But Andrea says she does remember how it all started, while she and her cousins were playing hide and seek.
I was under my desk.
So he came in and shut the door, you said?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened?
A lot of compliments, like, you're just really pretty, you're the prettiest cousin.
When cops asked Tim about the alleged incident, he denies ever being in the same room with his niece.
Never happened.
Andrea tells detectives that she enjoyed the extra attention from her uncle at first, but she says the compliments quickly crossed the line.
He would get very upset with you if you didn't let him kiss you on the mouth?
Okay. Yeah. I think, and once he became more forceful, I was like, well, I'm not going to disobey what he's saying. He started touching me in other places, like in my vagina area and stuff like that, and I was forced to touch him.
But again, Durbin flat out denies having any form of sexual contact with Andrea.
Nothing that she could misconstrue as a child?
You know what?
You know, if it did happen, it's not the end of the world. It's not like you killed somebody. I mean,
no, but there was never, ever any sexual contact.
Andrea remembers things differently as she describes in graphic detail the horrifying things she claims her Uncle Tim did to her.
I was in my bed and he came in and closed the door and got, like, sat on my bed. I was, like, laying down and started me over my clothes, like, touching me over my clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And then he took off my underwear that I had on and he pulled down his pants.
When detectives press Durbin further, he sticks to his story.
Well, it's not my first interview. It's not my first day as a detective.
Right, but that's fine, but I know that I have no clue.
Okay.
And so when you are, you're starting to accuse me of something, I would say you better be pretty confident.
They were so confident, detectives get a warrant for Durbin's arrest. The now 51-year-old firefighter is charged with rape, gross sexual imposition, and kidnapping.
What convinced you to take on this case despite the lack of corroborating evidence?
Just Andrea, when you listen to her story, she's compelling. You could tell that there was some serious trauma in her life, and the natural source of the trauma was the sexual assault.
The case goes to trial as both sides come out with guns blazing. The prosecution taking jurors back to that very first day when Durbin allegedly assaulted Andrea in her own bed.
He began touching her vagina over her clothing. Then he stopped. He left. Told her not to tell. Why did he stop that day? Grooming. He was getting away with it, and he didn't want to push too far. He was planting the seeds of normalcy, fear, guilt.
The defense countered that the abuse never happened, attacking the victim by claiming Andrea had serious mental issues that led to the accusations against her Uncle Tim.
There's a young woman who has a troubled mind, there's a family that's going through strife, and what we know to be true in this case, ladies and gentlemen, in this case, there is an innocent man.
And that's exactly what Andrea's aunt told jurors in this defense of her now ex-husband.
There came a point in time when you became aware of these allegations.
Yes.
What was your reaction when you became aware?
Never happened. No. doesn't fit him. No, without a doubt, that was my reaction.
Andrea's mother, Beth, took the stand, testifying that her daughter's behavior dramatically changed after the alleged assaults.
It got weird. More than once, she would run up to me and give me this quick side hug and run away. Sometimes she would just throw herself in my lap and cry for a minute and then get up and run away from me.
Then, in a sensational courtroom moment, Andrea takes the stand. Watch as she calmly walks past her Uncle Tim, who sits just feet away from her.
Okay, tell the jury then where were you when the third incident occurred?
In my bed, in my pajamas. He put his penis up to my vagina, and I don't really know if there was penetration, but it hurt, so I know there was an attempt at least.
Did it feel as if he was trying to penetrate your vagina?
Yes.
Durbin never took the stand.
What was it like to face him from the stand and see him while testifying here about what he did?
You know, I looked at him so he knew that I knew he was there. Not that I was afraid of him anymore, but in that moment, he was afraid of what I could do to him.
After nearly a year of alleged sexual assaults, Andrea says she was tormented by memories of Tim Durbin. To cope, she started cutting herself, contemplated suicide, and heard voices.
Were you aware that they would command her to do certain things?
Yes.
To harm herself?
Yes.
The defense seized on the theory that Andrea's harrowing ordeal never happened and was actually the results of what they call displaced memories, or visions planted in Andrea's mind through hypnosis.
Did you ever have any doubt about your memory?
No.
Did you ever have any doubt about the sexual abuse?
No.
Did you ever have any doubt about who did it?
No.
What does that do to you? When someone in court said that you had false planted memories.
The idea that my counselor, hypnotized me or something is insane, because the only thing we ever did was just talk about how I felt now and my relationships and how I'm going to move forward.
The case rested, and after 8 hours of deliberations, a staggering outcome: a hung jury.
You kind of feel your heart sink when you walked out of that courtroom thinking you had just torn your heart out for all these people.
But then another dramatic development.
It's my understanding the state will dismiss counts 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 of the indictment.
Instead of facing another trial, Tim Durbin cut a deal, a controversial move under what is known as the Alford plea. The prosecutor and the family agreed to drop the rape charges, and in exchange, Durbin pleaded guilty to an abduction charge, which meant no jail time and only 5 years of community control, which means Durbin will have to report to a probation officer.
Do you think he got off light?
I do. How can you get away with this, and this is all you get?
Crime Watch Daily repeatedly reached out to Durbin's attorney for comment, but he declined our requests. As for Andrea, now this brave young woman has finally closed the chapter of her horror story and has put the pain in the past.
To somehow balance the universe a little, but that doesn't always happen that way. And the thing that I know for sure is I'm going to be okay. I'm not sure he will.
And with me right now to break down the very troubling and complicated case of Timothy Durbin is criminal defense lawyer Sarah Azari. Sarah, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
You've spent a lot of time in court defending criminal cases. Why do you think this ended in a hung jury?
I think because this case turned on Andrea's mental state, and both sides used that to their advantage. So for the prosecution, it was that because of the trauma of the rape, she suffered these hallucinations and this tormented mind. And for the defense, it allowed the defense to raise the issue of reasonable doubt. And so because of her mental state, because of her inability to be able to, with certainty, testify as to the events that occurred versus the voices in her head, the jurors could not unanimously vote. So two people held out.
This could have been a lot more serious for Tim at the end of the day. I mean, he got a pretty good deal on this plea.
He absolutely did. I think he is avoiding the risk of being found guilty on a number of very serious charges, which were sexual assault charges that would subject him, if convicted, to a lifetime of sex registration.
Okay.
So he's avoiding that. He's also avoiding prison time.
Explain this Alford plea. What is that?
The Alford plea is a mysterious plea. It's essentially where the defendant says, I'm innocent, but I'm guilty because I admit that if the prosecution goes to trial, they can prove me guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But it allows the defendant to maintain his innocence, at the same time suffering a conviction, which brings justice for the victim.
Sarah, thanks for your insight into this case. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think prosecutors got it right? Sound off right now on our Facebook page. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.